Man, oh man. All right. It's September 13th. It's 7 o'clock. It is another Tuesday night. My name is Joey Ragona. Welcome to the live show. If you're here on the live, let us know. Hashtag live. If you're watching this on the replay, just put in that little hashtag and a replay so we can know who's coming at what times. That's all good. Good to have you here. Thank you for being here. This is going to be another epic show. I tell you this every single Tuesday because they're all amazing shows. Good to see you, Emma. Thank you for being here live. It's so great to see you. We're just getting started here. I'm going to bring in my good friend and longtime compadre to the mix. Scott is in the house. And you know what? He just came from I know for a fact that he just came from like a epic yoga and still trying to recuperate. He's breathing heavy, had to get his water, had to dry up. So are you ready to go, man?
I'm all ready to go, bro. Like I told you, I needed to do a class tonight. I took a couple of weeks to heal some injury, and I was with a dream client today. And normally, nothing gets in the way of yoga. I was just so into where she was at that I was
Mhm.
like, "Yeah, I figure I'll go tonight." Class ended 8 minutes ago. I jumped into a shower, but when you're in a 105-degree room for 75 minutes, you don't cool down instantly.
Yeah, for sure, man. And yeah, so I just appreciate you. Thank you for all the dedication, and it just shows a commitment to the cause. Commitment to the mission, and it's a good lesson for everyone listening that you just show up, you just step up and serve. So thank you for being that role model.
Thank you, Joey. And right back at you because I show up every Tuesday and so do you. And I want to shout out to Wendy Stradernick. And she's just been going live every day in spite of her fear and her nervousness. And she just goes live and she just does it. And I jumped on a call with her the other day
Hmm.
and she was struggling a little with it because she was basically taking her program that she had developed, and let me know if anybody, this sounds familiar, developed a program and wanted people to buy into the program and pay the money and then go take the course.
Right.
And tonight I wanted to talk about simplification. And when I was chatting with her, I was like, well, why is it that you're not excited? Not that she wasn't excited, she just wasn't really comfortable and just didn't look forward to it. Like, it's like, all right, Tuesday night, I'm going to kill another few hours before I get on with Joey and talk about everything marketing. I can't wait. Just like you get on with a dream client. And I was like, well, what are you passionate about? She started talking about the pieces. And then Atlas, I was like, well, why don't you take what you're trying to sell and make that a bonus and just do the live component with them and get on with them every day and do the same thing. And by simplifying it, it just makes such sense and it makes things so much easier.
Yeah.
That was the first one where simplification came in. The next one, I had mentioned my CFO, the guy that handles all the finances for my companies, and he's my second ex-husband-in-law, which is a whole nother story in an open loop. I had helped him focus one thing. He had originally had a site that was all tax this and tax resolution and nonprofit and CFO services. It was like pages and pages of links and confusion. And I was like, stop. What would Joey do? One thing. And so now he is a tax resolution specialist for people who owe more than $26,060. And the goal was to get him to a single page, read through, fill out a form to let him know they'd like to talk to him. That was it. And the original letter, actual physical letter with a hand return address and a hand address to the person with a real stamp, not put on perfect, that'll get open. And it was a letter. And originally, my idea was to send them to the website with either a QR code or the URL, which added a level of complexity. And so the other day, I'm thinking, what would Joey do? And I'm like, ding, it was only 100 letters. And I
Yeah.
said, let's just put your phone number on it. And it says, call my answering machine,
Yeah.
leave your name, email, and I'll get back to you. That was it. It just simplified it. And it goes to we didn't need a landing page and we didn't need a website. We did anything. We didn't need any technology other than a phone. Now, granted, he's got a website, and for people to go look if he's authentic, because after all, it must be real if it's on the internet. And so, that simplification just became the focus of everything, and everything in Atlas and everything we're talking about. And since we met, you were the simplifier and I was the multiplier. And
Right.
that was one of the lessons for me. And I was on with somebody else as well. And I was like, who's your dream client? Well, this, and this. I said, who's your dream client? Let's simplify it to start, then go out to everybody else. And then I want to just bring in more simplification and go back to the chain of beliefs. I had really played hard with the chain of beliefs for me. And then I did it for my dream client, and it was amazing. And then she had an assignment to go figure, outline the program that she thinks would. And even within the focus of what she wanted to teach, because we did the chain of beliefs, she got so much more focused and said, you know what? I'm not going to teach this, this, and this. I'm only going to teach this and this. And it was like simplification. And I watch each of these people's lives become easier.
Right.
And I sent a message the other day because you have a lot, but at the end of the day, I realized that with what I've learned from all of what we've done, all of what I've studied, is you don't just transform people's lives and give them back 96% and all that. Joey, you save people's lives, period.
Thank you.
Because when somebody actually gets this and realizes all I have to do is wake up and think about this one thing and not the plethora of this and that and course and emails and auto sequences, this and that and blah, 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 it just becomes, I've said this for months, it's just so easy. And I'm just encouraging everyone I talk to from here on in, any conversation, I don't care what it is. And you know what? Those that say, well, I want to give these people a chance. I was like, great, give them a chance. That's okay with you. I respectfully disagree because I believe it's the pumpkins. It's the dream clients. It's really the ones you love. I know it read there somewhere, you do business with the people you like who come to know, like, and trust you. I think it's bigger than that. Is you want to do business with people you love who will come to know, like, trust, and love you in that same thing. And I was asking I said, who's one person you'd hang out with? Just one. And they wouldn't answer it. And finally I was like, you know what? You're good. I'm done. And because again, in my must-have, in my chain of beliefs, can't be all things to all people. Not that much different than the Atlas chain of beliefs. And so it just, after, I'm not going to say struggling with it, you and I got on with you multiple times to unpack chain of beliefs. And then we did a live on it. And then we've gone through it in Atlas. And we just keep going through it because it's not like this stuff is simple, but it's not easy to change the whole mindset. It's taken me,
no, go ahead.
I committed 10 and a half, 11 weeks ago that I was going to go in this, both feet in, no toes, dive in head first, suspend all my disbelief and totally change everything. And it's taken this period of time to really hone in on how simple it becomes for your dream business, your dream life, and your dream client. I ask everyone now, tell me what your dream life is. And it's difficult for a lot of people to fathom what that is.
Right.
Because what is it? And it has to be. And for each one of them, it's been like, well, when do you want to show up? How often? I was like, well, what if you showed up one day a week, Atlas cohort, and that's all you did? And the rest of the week, you focused on getting ready or talking to people or having conversations. I finished a conversation today with, great, you've outlined it, finish outlining it, and then go figure, we're going to create a document that is an invitation. It just kind of spells out that 5 people I'm going to take to do this beta program 1, and here's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And we're going to do this and that, and that's it. No complex anything. And the other earlier I looked at something and I was like, you don't even need all that anymore. As I said to you, I
Yeah.
went and built a Google form, put some copy, tweaked it, and put the invitation on there. That's all I needed was that. It didn't even need. But like you said, a Google Doc is free. And if you want to send them then to a Google form to get their name and email. So in the beginning, you could personally email 5, 8, 10, 20, 30 people with a BCC in Gmail. There's no, I got to buy this and I need a platform and I need an email thing. No, you need something that you can just, and at Joey, it's just so brilliant because when I say you're going to do that, and then you're going to respond to some emails and a couple of messages, and you're going to ask him a few questions. Basically, can I ask you a few questions? Uh-huh. What are you challenged with that? And what's it like with that challenge? Tell me what it looks like, feels like. How would you like to solve it in that? Okay. Would you like some help with that? Uh-huh. Cool. Here's my private Google Doc. I love that. Private Google Doc. There's just something you put in there about that private. And I was just really, there's been transformation for me each week, but just this past week, all the simplification and
That's
all of it
great.
come together in just such an incredible way. And I just want to reiterate for anybody watching live, hashtag live, and anybody watching on the replay, hashtag replay, as we broadcast to wherever, every place, Twitter and Facebook and YouTube and Facebook again, and LinkedIn and that. And as you said in the beginning, we show up each week and we show up and show up. Monday, my life purpose call with my buddy Nick, I was like, okay, you ready to go live? He goes, no, I don't want to go live. So like kind of what we did, I said, good, we're going live. And the topic is, what do you do when you don't want to go live? And it was just the consistency, the simplicity. You talk about this a lot in the benefit breadcrumbs where you're putting out little pieces.
Yeah.
We've got, what, is this episode 138? I think it is.
37, I think it is.
7, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But again, we've talked about this before. We just started goofing off with one.
We did, yeah.
And, the if we stopped today and said, let's go write a book.
Oh yeah.
We've got how many books? I don't know.
Oh my God, yeah. There's a whole series of books because now it's not just about, take a couple of episodes and split those into chapters. It's now all the episodes become like a chapter would be its own entity, like this one whole topic is a book. So we've got, so the chapters in my mind, thinking back to all the content we have, would be, okay, we're going to do 10 chapters. Well, now we have 10 books based on one topic. So it's crazy. But I want to talk a little bit about like what you just said. By the way, anybody listening to the last 10 minutes, Scott just walked you through the entire Atlas program. So there you go. You just got it all for free, which is amazing. And I want to talk a little bit because you're talking a lot about technical stuff, and I want to pull it back for people listening to this because there's, I've had a couple of conversations already today about, and in the last week we had I had the elite, some of the elite girls over, the elite from my private clients over at my house, and we did a private mastermind here, which was really great. And I just pulled them out of the technical pieces, like, or even the structure of the grand poobah, right? Like, what's the whole thing look like? And it was the best clarity that they've ever got. Not because I know why it was the best clarity, because it always is better when you're in front of people and you've got a little whiteboard or a flip chart and you're just asking the right questions and there's no time. Like look, we got half an hour. Let's go. Let's get this thing done. And that's where my superpower lies. And what I found is we're talking about simplification, and I'll give a couple examples here in a minute. But for anybody listening to this, I think the way to simplify is, first of all, you don't have to get everything done like now. Even though we're talking about like what it does in Atlas, okay, do this, send them to a Google Doc, have a couple conversations. It's still overwhelming. Even as I'm listening to you talk, and I know it, I'm trying to listen to it from another point of view, and it's a lot. It's still a lot. So I want to pull it back for anybody, and please ask questions if you are listening to this or even on the replay. The first step, like, let's talk about that, Scott. It's like it's the who, right? Like, who are you working with? Um,
Joe,
so let's talk about that first.
you're absolutely right. And when you and I first met, I had my like foundational things I asked people. And it started out with what's your mission, what's your purpose, what's your escalator speech, what's this and that and that. And then it was what's your vision and what's your end game, what's your exit strategy. And I had dream client at the bottom. And then I was like, it goes to the top. It is the first thing before anything. And chain of beliefs is in there too.
Yeah.
But it is the who. It's the you who. You said that in one of the episodes, you who. And when we know truly who the who is, that changes everything. Because everything we talked about and everything I talked about was based on the fact of understanding who is the who from the get go. And again, it's not the avatar who, it's
No.
the dream client who. And it's not somewhere between X and Y or male and female.
Yeah.
For the sake of it, in the beginning, it's one age, one gender, one person, one situation that we go find out everything we can about that one
Yeah.
dream
Well, I
client.
mean, for me, like, that's like an avatar to me.
Yep.
To me, it's not about like that. That's demographics to me, um, which is fine. But I find that that's still a box, like, because I've been teaching Avatar since I learned it from Eben
Right.
way back in 2010 or something, where he first introduced the word Avatar to our, like, we've known this since, we've been in business, perfect client or whatever we used to call it back then. But anyway, long story short, it I've been obsessed with Avatar thingy. And then the demographics come in. So what you just said there is demographics to me. And so what I talk about is letting that go. It's not really necessary to have that piece because it boxes people in. And there are places, like a small percentage from what I find. This is just my experience, like talking to many people, right? Is that there are some points where it is very important. Who is this person? How old are they? What's their income? What all that stuff? That's in a very small percentage, at least from all the people I've worked with. And once I let that go, I'm like, wait a minute, the destination where they're going is way more important than their past, right? It's like their situations are kind of related, but they don't have to be. And the situation and they if I'm talking to 35 to 50-year-old business people, and all of a sudden a 21-year-old entrepreneur comes and says, "Hey, can I do this thing?" I'm like, "Sorry, you don't fit the thing." That's where the model breaks.
Okay, so
So,
Joey, I'm in agreement with you.
okay,
I'm not what my take on it is, and I truly believe it's about the destination, it's about the oasis, it's about who do you want on the dream island.
yeah.
I use that piece as a teaching tool, really more of when I say, so tell me about Julie. I'm not that
Oh, you're
concerned
true.
about
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
that. That's more to me of when I talk to someone, I'd say, okay, let's talk about Julie.
Got it.
Let's go. I call it the coffee shop. You call it the bar. So, that what's the scene like? So Julie walks in. That's all I'm using it for, not to say because, yeah, and I take it to the copy piece, but I'm in full agreement that it's about who do you want on the Dream Island? Who do you want on the Oasis? And what is their dream? So
Okay, so
I'm
what you
fully,
just said was okay, like, because I just want to make this clear, because
yeah.
for anybody listening coming in, they're like, "Oh, he's talking about this and he's not." Okay, so what you just said is exactly right. And what I how I describe this to people is that the avatar is still very important. However, it's that what you just said. It's like, okay, my dream client, or maybe in this context, it would be, who's my dream audience, who's my dream group, my dream tribe. All these people are in this situation crisis that want to go to the dream oasis, right? Okay, that's them. But then but then they choose within the tribe a representative to go talk to us or that we talk to them. So the tribe stays safe. The one person comes out to the podium and says, "Okay, Scott, what do you have for me?" And that's the avatar. That's the avatar where that's where I just want to plant and I want to cement that into everybody's mind is that's so I still use that as the copy person. Like, mine is Sarah Struggles and she's 37 years old and like all this stuff. I got all that, right? But I just want to make sure that everyone knows that we're talking about not where we that's not the market. That's the representative that we talk to in our marketing.
And by the way, Joey, that is the first time I've ever heard you articulate it like that. That Sarah Struggles is the representative of everybody who comes to the podium. I love that. And says, "What do you got for me to bring back
Right.
the, to the rest of the tribe?" And yeah, it's not because I'm not only going to do business with gals from Russia who are ballerinas and teaching that. That's just who happens to be now. But she's the representative because she's the one I'm talking to that's going to go back to all of the other
Right.
yoga teachers and healers and say, "Hey, this is what this is all about." So I'm in full agreement with you. And I love the way you put that is the beginning piece becomes the representative, but it is about the destination, the dream oasis. Where do we have to take them and who do we want on the island?
Yep. Yep. Thank you. By the way, all these comments are amazing. Thank you for being here. Yeah, cool. I wanted to share a couple things. So here's what I want to share. And what you're talking about, and why the who is so important. And so I did a training today for Archangel Academy, which I trained there, and we talked a lot about this today in that group, which was like the dream client difference. And so I'm hopefully I'm going to show a slide here, and I'm going to read the slide first, then I'm going to talk about it. So give me a second if my technical
You have a
thing.
slide, Joey?
I'm like, yes, but I know it's going to be. I know it's going to. I didn't set this up before, so I'm probably going to have to. Oh, hey, it did work. Okay, cool. So I want you to read this. This is from Dean Jackson, and it says continue to patiently educate and motivate as long as it takes. Continuously motivate and continuously and patiently educate as long as it takes. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because we get the question all the time, how long is this going to take? How long are these conversations going to take? When am I going to start making money and all this other stuff? So that is the reason why the dream client is like super important. Like, there's no word in the English language that can explain how important it is to have people like you said at the beginning of this that you love, because it's going to take time. And I don't and I'm sorry if you think this is a push button business. It is not. Everything will take time, and the only way that you can create bond and the right prefluence and influence and persuasion and everything else you want to talk about has to do with time. And the only way that you're going to put in the effort is if you love the person, because like Dean says, you have to continuously patiently educate and motivate as long as it takes. There is no one answer. And so my understanding of this, or in my experience of this, is that, Scott, I've said it a million times. I love coming to every single Zoom call with everybody, including tonight. And it's like, this is what I live for. My energy goes up, and it's because I love to educate and motivate with the stuff that lights me up. And that's the whole idea of this. What do you think?
Well, basically, what Dean Jackson says supports the three pillars of what we talk about, which is build a tribe, serve, don't sell, and respect their timeline on their time.
Right.
And this goes to number two: continue to patiently educate and motivate as long as it takes.
Right.
That's number 2 and 3, and
Right.
which does number 1. And I'm in full agreement because, again, anybody that's listening that's thinking, okay, great, a marketing show, they'll teach me how to market, and then I can get my thing done, and get my funnel built, and I get my sequences done, and I can do this, that, and that. And it's like, that's not going to happen. If you are patient and you do patiently educate. And understand that in the beginning, we may talk to one person. You and I, in the beginning of this, talked to you and me. And then it was one, and then it was two, and then it was three, and the same thing in the group. But we build like a snowball. You build a little snowball and you roll it, and it brings on more snow. And so we talk to the first person and we put a little benefit breadcrumb out there, and we continually and patiently educate, and we show up and we answer questions. And maybe 3 months, 2 months, 6 months, somebody goes, I'm struggling with X. But I remember Joey answered this question that made sense, or I saw this thing, or I watched this, and they go, okay, I'm ready now.
Yeah.
And that's where the continually and patiently educating and motivating is just brilliant. And it goes back to, we love people so much. Like the other day, I needed to get away from what I was doing, and I just jumped on and helped a few people because I knew, like you, I love doing this. I love patiently educating and motivating. And again, they were not my dream clients, so to speak, but they were people in my universe who I knew needed my help.
Right.
Because I also realized the other day there's a difference between your superpowers and your zone of genius. But that's another topic.
Yeah.
I think we got comments.
Yeah, let's
here.
talk to Emma says, as a brand strategist for over 10 years, I find helping others discover their dream client easy to achieve because challenging to articulate but challenging to articulate my own dream client. It's always the way, Emma, always. Even myself, if somebody still asks me now, I'm like, hang on a minute, I still stumble, and I'm teaching this thing like every day, 24/7. So, and empathy maps is the key to connecting the heart, which is amazing. So if you don't know what that is, just Google empathy map, and you'll see the empathy map thingy, and it's great to start understanding what to look for to connect to people's hearts and minds. You're absolutely right, Emma. I want to again simplify here for some people and give you some examples of what we talked about on Friday, where putting together where you are. So if anybody's listening to this, here's what I want you to think about. Like the first thing is to aside from the who and all that, like if you're trying to put together a business, I find that a lot of people are they want to get the whole thing pieced together. They want to see it all laid out, and it hardly ever works. Like it just doesn't work. When you put it all together, and then you go out, and all of a sudden something breaks, and then you stop, and then they're just constantly, just in this zone, or there's this cul-de-sac just around and around and around. They never get out to the main road. And so one of the clients that I worked with on the Friday, I said, okay, what's the thing that you want to do? And she laid out this entire thing, and she's listening. She knows who she is. Um, what's the entire thing? And she proceeds to go into, I want this, and then when that happens, it goes this, and then when that, I'm like, slow down. Well, like, what's the situation that you're in right now? And this is a lesson for not only, this is a meta lesson. If you're listening to this, everybody, is that it's not only about you, but it's also, if you're doing this to or with yourself to try to figure out where you're going, then this is also about your clients, like how you help your clients. And so in this situation, it was about, like, getting out of a, like, just rebuilding the business so you're financially stable. Like, let's get some income here. And I'm sure that there's people who are listening to this who might be in the same boat, and trying to build, like, the scaling part of it is redundant. It's like it has nothing to do with the situation right now because you're tripping over something. So what we did is we simplified. I said, okay, what do you need to do? Like, what's the thing you need to do right now? And we need to fix that problem first, and forget all the rest. And that's the lesson. That's a simplification. Because if you don't ask these questions, like, where are you now? Like, what's going on in your life? And this is what I'm saying is, I asked her, but at the same time, we should be asking our dream clients, what's the situation going on here? Like, what's going on? Because if we don't understand what the problem is in a deeper level, we can't fix them. So if I didn't ask those questions to my client, then it would be months of trying to build something out here when the root of the problem was not being addressed.
Joey, I would like to jump in here.
Yes, sir.
And a huge piece for me, because one of my superpowers and zone of genius is being able to get on with somebody like you and I can do, go so deep and find out what's troubling them, what's blocking them, what's keeping them, and then look at what they have and map it all out and what it should look like. And I remember 8, 10 weeks ago when I started with my dream client, I was like, okay, great. Kind of like the napkin, the machine, the whole DM lab stuff was like, okay, take the product, let's splinter something out, let's make the lead magnet and the tripwire thingy, blah, blah, and the whole upsell thing there. And it was like, I spoke to someone who had built their whole thing. Hey, I built my program and I know it's great. Now I got to go sell it. And that's where the big shift has to happen. If you built the program because you thought that people needed it, you thought people needed it. We don't know if people needed it. I built 6 pieces of software that were pretty cool, but there wasn't really enough people with a problem that I could go out and solve the problem. It goes back again to the who. It's that dream client and knowing what is their struggle. So when I first started with my dream client, I was like, oh, this will be easy. Here's what the flirt, I call the gift the flirt. Here's what the cup of tea, the gift enhancer, whatever. I just call it a little different because that's my language, what I've always used. And I realized that I was not at a point to do that yet because it was based on what existed, but it wasn't about the who. After 8 weeks of study and research and dream client and analysis, then we were finally able to say, here's what they're saying they want. Let's put that together rather than what we thought. And I know for a lot of people listening who are like, okay, I can learn how to market my stuff. I can learn the best way to sell it. And that's backwards now. And I fully get that. Is I have to find out what is the crisis and what is the dream oasis, the victory path. Oh my. And once we know that, then we can build, not even build, but then we can go out and do something and then maybe use what you built as additional things and bonuses or fit that in rather than I've got 7 programs I built and spent 6 months. And guess what? They're sitting there because I don't yet know. I have the webinar built. I practiced it. I was ready to launch the whole thing. To who? I didn't know. I
Right,
was going to
right.
go and buy traffic and that instead of, hey, I'm going to be doing this thingy October 22nd where I'm going to teach 5 people how to do this thingamathingy. Let me know if you're interested.
Yeah.
That goes back to the simplicity of it, Joey.
Yeah.
But full circle, if you don't know who your dream client is, what their crisis is, then everything else is for naught.
Yeah, and we'll read Emma's, then I'll come back to that because I want to answer that. I'm taking the agile approach, working in sprints instead of building a huge course and building a hybrid of coaching and online course on a drip feed. Each week, I create the content to meet the pains and gains. Yeah, that's the way to do it. It's the model. It's not rocket science. It's not something that I created. I mean, it's been out for numbers of years, and um, software companies do this. They've been minimum viable products for years and years and years, and that's how you do it. You don't create anything. You just have conversations and you create week to week. And then, the other thing that we talked about last week in Atlas was like it never ends. It's never finished. To me, it's never finished because there's so many. I mean, we had an epic weekend at Archangel. We had the Changemaker event. And there's people that are like, a billion times smarter than us, so they're way ahead of us, and they're looking at the trends and they see what's going on. And there's so much that comes in, and that's why I love being in groups. That's why I love paying to go to events and paying to be in mastermind rooms because you get the cheat codes from people, right? You just ask them, like, hey man, like what are you doing here? What's happening there? And you advance 10 years above the market. That's why I'm saying, like, within Atlas, remember, like it's the way that the model is, it's still not, nobody's caught up to it. Like, they're thinking it's beta, but it's not just beta, as you know, because there's nuances to it. Eventually, it'll be like mainstream stuff, but we have a window of opportunity. It's the same thing, like, right. And I'll tell you right now, like, you don't have to buy Atlas for to know what the opportunity is. And I'll tell you what it is right now, which is experiential cohorts. That's what they are. It's just nobody wants information. Nobody wants more videos. Nobody wants to fill out exercises. They want the cheat code. They want tell me they want the magic button, but we can now give them the magic button if you and that what I mean by magic button is it's not that they press it and everything's perfect, but you're there to guide them through. And that has everything to do with the who, it has everything to do with your superpowers and the what and all this other stuff. Going back to what Dean Jackson said, how long are you willing to patiently educate and motivate them to get them through to the transformation? And I want to talk about that for a second because I know you want to jump in here, Scott, but I have to finish the thought. If you're listening to this and you're thinking, okay, well, I'm going to teach them this, 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 and this, and this, and I'm going to outline all this kind of stuff, stop right there. Like, they are tripping over something, and your job is to figure out what they are tripping over and fix that problem. I'll give you another analogy, and I'm giving this full credit to Giovanni because he's the one who told me this, and now I use it all the time, which is brilliant, which is that your dream client is in a hole. They are in a huge hole, and your job is to get them out of the hole. They can see the mountain. There's a mountain beside the hole, okay? And they can see the mountain, and that's where my client was on Friday. Like, oh, you know what I'm going to do? And I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. But she's in the hole though, and I'm trying. Okay, let's figure out how to get you out of the hole. Like, you're here, you're telling me all this kind of stuff, but then I'm going to ask you how you're going to do this. You come back to excuses and all these other things and all these challenges. So yeah, we have to recognize where is the dream client, and they're in the hole. Our first job is to get them out of the hole. And that's what Atlas is. Atlas gets people out of the hole of whatever it is, no time, exhausting launches, whatever. And it gets them income very quickly with clients that are paying what they're worth. That's my job. Get them out of the hole, right? And then it's okay, now let's look at the mountain. Now, what do you want to take this to? Do you want to scale it? Whatever. So anybody listening to this, that's the thing. Like, you slow down, like pull it back. And what is the best thing that you can simplify to say, just fix this, man. Just go do this. And not, yeah, but what if? No, like, there's no what if yet. We don't know what if until you fix this. Like, you can anticipate a problem, but you don't know what those problems are until you fix it. And you and I both know that you fix one problem, that just brings another problem.
Yeah.
But we don't know what those problems are until we fix it. But what people try to do is they try to fix all the problems, right? Before actually doing the one thing to fix the first problem. Go.
Yeah, a couple of things. One, the last thing you said, and that's what happened today on my call, was I'm not going to do this. 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 Even though they need that fixed, I'm not going to fix it now. Right now, I'm going to fix this. Brilliant. Yeah. I'm going to jump back to the word experiential. And years back, when I was speaking all over the world, and I would do the same seminar over and over and over again, go figure, simplify. And I'd show up and I didn't have to do anything because I'd already done it 100 times. I would show up with the amazing workbooks and I would hand them out and say, you see that workbook in front of you? If you want to read it, go for it. But now let's find out why you're here. Who are you? Why are you here? And when they say, I'm here because I'm struggling with this, and I write it down. And at the end of going around the room, I say, okay, we're going to talk about this, this, and this today. And that's basically the same thing in the experiential piece is, okay, I understand you got this first problem. Let's get on a call and solve it, which is the first week of the cohort. Great. And then the brilliant questions that you love to share is, what was useful? What do you need more clarity on? Great. Okay, next week, we're going to solve this other problem thingy. And that you go through the whole thing like that. And I watched today and she created an outline. And I said, great, that's it. We got a couple of bullet points. You're done. We're ready to go. Because the research said, here's our problems. And again, rather than, I got to deal with the imposter syndrome and I got to deal with this. No, deal with this one thing first. And again, I think there are people that may be watching this live, #live, replay, or if you want to join the group, Heart-Centered Marketing Lab, I don't even know what it's called anymore.
I'll put it in there.
Link in, Joey, if you would. It's an amazing place of heart-centered entrepreneurs. It's a tribe that has created its own energy, and it's a great place to be if you want to learn all this stuff. I tell everybody that, join the group, watch what you do, watch what we do, watch what the others do, watch what people have learned and how they're putting it into play.
Right.
But more importantly, read every email that Joey writes and see what he's doing and model it, because everything that you teach, you do. Everything you
Yeah.
talk about, you do. There's no, well, okay, I'm going to do this. And except for last week, you did put a link in for an affiliate commission where I think you made 2 cents.
It did?
So I just
Wow.
want
Whew. I got to go check my
just
bank account, man.
no, you're getting rich off of those 2 cents. Just kidding. And obviously, for anybody watching, you're not going to see us. Okay, here's the thing for the thingy, and you got to get in before the countdown timer ends. It goes back to what you put up for Dean Jackson saying is continue to patiently educate and motivate as long as it takes. And that's what we do. But we're not, as long as it takes, there's no end game here for you and I, Joey, when we decided to do this. We just love doing this because if somebody watches the call, the live, and makes a change and a transformation and helps more people, and you save their life or we save their life by doing this, it's like, I'm good. Thanks very much. You
Right,
go.
right, right. Yeah, it's all about the transformation. By the way, I was trying to get that slide back here. That's not the slide I wanted to do.
The Rappel one or the Dean Jackson one?
Yeah, it was the Rappel one I had up there because I was messing around with slides right here, but I'll put the other one, Dean Jackson one up, and let me just fix the thingy here, the keynote, which would be that guy right there. Okay, cool. So that's the one. That's the quote we're talking about. So we got some questions here that I want to get to, which is, let's see here. Narcissa says, so if you know the who, can you proceed to the webinar process to test it per se? You can do whatever you want. It depends on what the webinar process is for. This is a hard question to just answer because I don't know the context of it. And I don't know. How would you answer this, Scott? I mean, unless you want to give us some more context.
Well, I mean, I think there's more context, but just as a broad brush approach to this, if I know who the dream client is, if I know everything about them, if I know what their problems are, if I know what their challenges are, another way would be is like, hey, I'm going to be doing a webinar where I'm going to give some value and educate you on how to solve the problem that I know the industry has. Come hang out with me. And at the end of it, if you like this and you're interested, shoot me an email, send me a message, and we'll see. Would people show up to a webinar to have their crisis solved? I would say if I had a list of people, it would be easier to me than, I know we like to talk about individual back and forth. I would test if I had a bunch of people and say, look, I know you're all struggling with XYZ. I'm going to do a webinar so that I can help you. It's like I did with the landing page opt-in formula. I did a live and I shared the 5 steps to the formula, and I helped a bunch of people. And then it was like, okay, if anybody's interested, I'm going to go further. And so, that kind of worked. But again, it wasn't a webinar with a pitch deck at the end. It was more of, I hope you found value, and if you're interested, let me know. That was it.
Yeah, like when I do it, like, I don't do webinars, like the typical webinar stuff. I like doing a lot more intimate curation type of things that are they're kind of like webinars, but they're really not. They're more just talking to the dream client to figure out what their challenges are. I'm a big fan of having individual conversations, and what I mean by that is, and even if it's 10 people at a time, you're still having a small intimate, I should maybe change the word to intimate conversations,
I
which
like
would be
the word
better.
yeah.
Right.
And Joey, you could do it as a test to see, hey, I'm going to be going live, and I don't care what you call it. I'm going to have a bunch of people. I'm going to hang out. I'm going to have a mastermind. I'm going to have a webinar. Whatever you call it, I want to chat with people. If nobody shows up, they're not interested. A bunch of people show up, and at the end, I can say, hey, if you're interested about the thing or you want more, shoot me a message, send me
Yeah,
an
it
email.
like I said, it all depends on the context of what you're doing, and
Right.
I think that there's so much out there that's taught to try to speed up the sale that we're messed up, and that's where I'm just having a conversation now with one of our Atlas students who were like, I tried this, I tried that, and I'm like, I'm going through the things because they're taking it as strategy or tactics rather than the entire right, and that's fine. I mean that's normal because that's the world we come from, and so that's what
Joey,
I see is like we're just trying to insert tactics to try and do something, and that's not what this is about.
no, and the Atlas methodology of having one-on-one conversations with a lot of people rather than, well, if I do a webinar and get all these people on, I can sell them all. No, I feel if I was doing a webinar, it would be to get a message out to then talk to the people one-on-one.
Well,
That's the
yeah, and even the webinar, Scott, like, I mean, there's this here's what I would do if I was doing a webinar is I would put up hoops to get in. Like that's my whole world. Is like
yeah.
you are not allowed in unless you pass all of these tests. Where most webinars are just like send as many people as possible to filter down to the few that really want this thing that maybe I can get on a discovery call with or whatever. I don't care about how you do that kind of stuff if you want to do that, but it's what I care about is and this is just what it's worked for me. You don't have to agree with this, but what I found is I'm going to say the hard work, but it's not hard because Scott's been saying it's easy, which it is. It's well, it's simple. It's not easy. Like it's better. It's like it's simple and not easy to do. There's still more time involved in all this, but I do all of that up front because I'm trying to make future Joey's life easier,
Yeah.
and I make future Joey's life easier by doing the hard work up front, which is like basically putting up a lot of gates. Okay, well, you passed that test, but hey, there's just that, there's another one you got to scale. There's this other wall you got to scale, right? And people think that's nuts. But then when I say, well, I get 80% conversion, that's the reason why. Yes, I'm not talking about thousands of people. Let's get that straight. But I'm happy, dude, with like 30, 40, 50 people. You know what I'm saying? If that's a pretty darn good income for
Yeah.
doing a cohort.
And Joey, again, I've broken down a few times this week with people. I was like, okay, what if you did 5 people in your first one and your program's eventually going to be 2,500, but you did the first one for 500 and you got
Right.
5 people, that's 2,500. You do the
Right.
second one for 1,005 people. All of a sudden, you do that once, a couple of times a year, you've made the money with 40 people,
Exactly
not
right.
these people. And I
That's
so love
simplifying.
it's so simplifying it, Joey. And there's people that are going to be watching that are stuck in the how do I get this thing faster? We've got it made right now. We have the ability. I spent the last 3 weeks in 3 different Facebook groups watching people's emails, studying, asking questions, going to the copy bank and going back to right marketing copy and going back to all the things we always talk about
Yeah.
to find out what are the problems. And today it was, okay, you know what the biggest problem is? This. They're saying it. They're struggling with, they're suffering with it. That's their crisis. That's what we need to help them with.
Yeah, and that's what for anybody listening to this, you know, that's I think the theme of this. What simplification means is
Yeah.
simplified for you, but also look at what's the one thing I can teach somebody, and I mean one thing. Like even I know you're all expert, and there's so much that we could teach somebody, but that's where overwhelm comes in. Um,
And Joey, I'm going to jump in here too with the overwhelm piece. My client today was like, I said, how long is it going to take you to present this? She goes, 90 minutes. And then it was okay after that. So I said, 2 hours, too long. You taught me present for 20 to 30 minutes
yeah,
so that they learn, can implement it, give them another 30 minutes or more to interact. What was most useful? What do you need clarity on? answer questions, and then go do it. Come back next week. If we try and I used to, when I did my seminars, half day, 1 day, 2 days, at the end I'd be, tell me 3 things that you're going to go back and change. And 30 days later, when I checked in, they didn't do any of them. All of my seminars from then forward, if you're with me for 4 hours, 8 hours, or 2 days, what's the one thing you're going to do different as a result of being here? That's it. And who you're going to be accountable to. And then I realized when I asked them to do one thing, they were like, I can do this one thing. And with that is, like, if I teach you one thing, which is what you do in Atlas for the most part,
Yep.
you teach me concept that, like, this week is the pre-sell. And I'm like, okay, 5 minutes, I got it. Now I got to wait for you to give me your brilliance and genius on Thursday for me to then see how does the pre-sell thing, and then just go do it. That's it. It's not like do this and this and this and this and this and this and this, and each one stacks on top of the other one.
Yeah, and
It's
I want to.
it's simple.
It is simple, and I learned that by, like, I remember this fable or this made up story. Maybe it's a true story, and I'll totally mess this up, but it's pretty funny. It's pretty cool, and there's two lessons in here. One is the fact of dealing with like a small amount of people, right? That's what we talk a lot about as well. Like, oh, what happens if only one person shows up? What am I getting like? And forget about, like, all you need to do is transform one person, and then transfer two, and then whatever transformation. Yeah, transform, not transfer, transform another person. So there's this fable or this story about a dude who was getting into politics, and he was going to go around and start doing his talk, and goes to the place or whatever, and there's only one person sitting there, and it's this, and he's like, I was expecting all these people to show up, like, what's happening? Should I still do this talk? He talks to the person, he goes, what should I do here? Like, do you want me to just leave, or do you want me to do the talk? And the person says, listen, I'm a cow handler. I'm a very simple person, and all I know is that if I was walking down the road a couple of miles and went to the cow herd thingy, I'm not messing this up, but anyway, and there was only one cow there, I would still feed the cow. That's lesson number one. So the guy says, okay, I'll give you my speech, because he was becoming a politician. So he proceeds to go through his speech 2 hours later, and the cow handler, just sits there motionless. And then he stops and he says, so Scott, or what did you think? And he says, I'm a simple cow handler, and all I know is that if I walked, to go to the cow herd, and there was one cow there, and I bring my hay, I would not dump all the hay on them all at once. That's lesson number two, which means just chill. Just give one chunk at a time.
Yeah, and again, that's simplification, Joey, and thank you for that wonderfully told
Thank you. I'm not a
story.
good storyteller, but still, I think the
Oh,
point got across.
it doesn't matter. You made the 2 points. If I showed up, there was one cow, I feed the cow. If I had a whole truckload of hay, I'd only give them enough hay. I wouldn't give them all the hay.
Right.
Those points are so powerful. And yes, if you just had one person show up and you transform their life, it was like on today's call, it was like, how many do you want on the first one? She goes, 5. I can take care of 5. I said, great. That's it. It was 4 to 5. I said, okay, 4 to 5. And I remember my first one was 12 people, and my second one was 5. The second one was much better with 5 people, 5 or 6.
Mm-hmm.
It was much better. I learned so much more, and I was able to transform people in a much better way. And going back to the webinar, the challenge with that is there's so much involved. You got to get the webinar thing you set up, and you got to get the platform set up, and you got to have the invitations, and you got to have the autoresponder thingy, and you got to have this, and you got to get everything prepared. And what if nobody shows up?
Mm-hmm.
And what if only one person show up? Are you still going to feed them the hay and share one thing with them? And then it's like, okay, I got to do it again. Instead of, hey, group, tribe, put dream clients in training, whatever. I'm thinking of doing this thing to help this. Are you interested? Rather than all that time, effort, and energy to put together a webinar.
Yeah, it's a great point. I mean, if you're going to do that, if you want to test whatever it is you want to test, and this is for anybody listening, is just set up a simple Zoom. Like the power we have behind us is simple. So there doesn't have to
Yeah.
be registration pages and all these things. Like, okay, if you want to do a webinar, if you still want to do slides and all this, whatever, but just go, okay, I'm setting up the Zoom link. Let me send it to you. And it doesn't have to be this technological thing or
Right.
fancy stuff. And that's what this is all about. The minimum viable product, the fastest way you can get things out to test. That would
And
be
I want to go
and thank you for
something
bringing
else.
that up because that's a really great point, Scott.
There's another point that you made that I want to bring up, and maybe you could weave it into your story. Is, what happens if, there's only 3 or 4 people that show up? You're going to take care of them, and you're going to feed them, and you're going to nurture them,
Yeah.
and you just what they need, the one thing. You're not going to bring 4 different loads of hay. They all get the same hay. That's it. And actually, here was the point. Thank you for letting me work through it. Is you want to put a gate up.
Yeah.
You don't want, okay, I got 87 people to register. Yay. I got 42 to show up. Yay. Are they your dream client? Well, only 5 of them are. Well, then just let those 5 people in, and the others need to go stand in another line. Oh, pumpkin plan. No,
Exactly.
that's the practice. The practice pumpkin plan, big leap there. I got to make that into one big giant thing. But yeah, that is so important, Joey, is only let in those people that need to be there.
Yeah,
It
exactly.
goes to your struggles as the representative for everybody else.
Right. Right.
That's it.
Coley, thank you. Talking about Atlas's heart centered comes with value, sets of beliefs driven by thank you. Integrity and deep compassion, loyalty to us to not have a struggle, as you know, so many that still do. Yeah, that is not a strategy. That's experience, compassion, and love and soul hugs. Thank you for that, Coley. That's very nice of you to say. Thank you. Lorna, yes, Changemaker was the first live event I've been to in 3 years. It was so much fun and got to meet some of my elite family. Like it was an epic weekend in so many ways. So yeah, this would be a whole other show on my biggest takeaways from Changemaker. But I mean, um, I think one thing that pops right in my mind is just go ask. Steve Sims, who's a brilliant man, very vocal person, stands for integrity and authenticity and relationship building, and that's one thing that just pops into my mind. Just go ask, and if you're not asking, it's an automatic no. So
What do
that
you
would be
mean
the
by
thing.
just go ask, Joey? What do you mean by that?
Just gas, like if it's like whatever, his most famous story is that his clients wanted a special event, and he basically got into the statue of David, had the table set up underneath the statue of David in Rome. I think that's where it is. And then Andrea Bocelli sang for his clients, and all he did was knock on the door, and said, "Hey, can I come in and set up a table here for like?" And then when he told the guy who was like, I guess the person, like I guess a security guard of some kind, whatever, said, why did you let me do this? Like why? And the guy goes, well, because you asked. Nobody's ever asked before, and that was a big
And
lesson for me.
that is huge. And I'm going to share a quick story that I learned from Nick this week. Was he said he was at a car show, and he asked if he could. He asked, that's it. And they said, yeah, sure. Anyway, he's at the car show, and he meets this guy who has been to 600 Formula One racing events. And he'd been to 600 because he was a photographer. And it's kind of like if you got a camera and a clipboard and a white coat, you can get in anywhere. And this guy knew everybody.
Right.
And one day there was this Ferrari that was like only a certain number, and that's how Ferrari goes, is you pay millions to get in line to spend more millions. And he really wanted this special edition, and there were only a couple available. And he's like, he calls up and says, can I speak to the president of Ferrari? And he got through, and he goes, look, this and that. I know you from here, and I'd love to have the opportunity to buy this vehicle. 5 minutes later, he gets a call from the local dealership and says, your whatever it is, Ferrari is waiting. You just need to put a deposit down. And the deposit was a lot of money that he didn't have.
Right.
And he went to his wife and he said, hun, blah, blah. The last version of this that came out sold for this. and it tripled in value overnight. And can we mortgage our home to get the vehicle? And the wife was like, well, if those tripled, sure. And he asked, all he called up the president of Ferrari, and he said, yeah, if he had never asked, it just never would have happened. I love that takeaway. And it holds true for all of us. If you never ask, then, I mean, I've
It's an
asked some
automatic
crazy,
no.
yeah,
It's just like you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
yeah. I once at a hotel in Orange County in Marriott, I was like, "Can I turn your meeting room into a deli?" They're like, "Nobody's ever asked us, but sure." That's
Right.
all. So I love that your takeaway. I'd love to know what Lorna's takeaway was, since she was also
Yeah,
there
you
for
were
the
there. So,
weekend.
Lorna, what was your big takeaway from that? I mean, there was a whole bunch, but that one stood out. Like, I like that. You see, for me, there's always like one, again, simple. There's always one simple thing, and I can now, like, speaking of this is crazy, but going back to 2012, listening to Eben, there's like the guy's a genius, and there's so many tactics and strategies and mindset and psychology. Okay, the one thing I took from that, the whole event, there was like 3 days. And I'm talking brilliance beyond brilliance. What I took away from that was speed of implementation.
Mhm. Yeah,
That's it. Whatever you learn, go and apply it. That was it. So I can't, I mean, I could probably think about what else did I learn in the event, because there was so much there and I've got billions of notes on it. But if it was the one thing, was like, just go do it. Whatever you wrote down on that page, go do it. Speed of implementation. And this is the
I
same
was
thing over here. Brilliance, but it's like, just
yeah.
go ask.
I was engaging with a dream client a few years back, a Reiki practitioner, yoga teacher, coach, a Vedic astrologer, one of my angels, incredible. And we had created this life balance mandala. It was an exercise where, different parts of your life, you scored where you were from 1 to 10 on the lotus petals. And then at the top, you kind of wrote a statement out on what you wanted in that. And she was presenting it, and somebody was like, can I just use one word? And she's like, huh, I never thought of it. And so from then on, it became one word.
Yeah.
And again, simplicity. Uh, it's just great topic tonight, Joey. And simplicity. Why would anybody want to add complexity to life when it's so much easier and simpler to simplify with the Atlas methodology?
Yeah. And again, it's not just about the Atlas thing, but it's
I
more about
know.
simplification. Yeah, Atlas on its own is a hugely simple way of building your business. Um, but at the same time, it's about simplifying for you and for your clients. And I want to give a shout out to Steve, because he's my man, and I want to plug this book, because this book is Steve. You got to get this book, okay? The Art of Making Things Happen, Blue Fishing. And
Joey, I got two books I haven't read after the two books I just read, and I got to get another book.
yeah, I got to get another book, because what Emma's saying here is right. I've done it, and don't ask, don't get. But here's the thing. Um, this book will show you how to ask, because I'll give you an example, and I'm probably messing this up, Steve. If you're listening, don't don't
Gonna
don't
mess
don't
another story up, Joey.
don't private message me and go, dude, you messed that all. No, but basically, it's like it's like what was I going to say now? Shoot. Okay, I interrupted you. Go
You're
finish your thought,
talking
and I'll
about
come back.
you're talking about the book Blue Fishing, The Art of Make Things Happen, and you were apologizing to Steve because you were going to tell a story and mess it up.
I got it. I got it. It's this.
Go.
So like the normal thing is, I reach out to you and I'm like, hey, I was gonna say Steve. Hey, Scott.
Hey, what's your name? Who are
Yeah, like,
you?
hey, Scott. Uh, we're in the same thing. We'd love talking about marketing and everything else. Let me know if there's anything I can do for you. That's one of the worst things you can do.
That's horrible
Do you know why?
because they have no idea what you can do for them.
Well, that's one, yes, and you're putting the onus on them. Like,
Them, they
well,
got to
what
figure
the
out.
what do you mean anything I can do? Like, now you're giving me a duty to go out and figure out what you can do for me? And it's
They're going to make it
that's the
up anyway.
simplicity that I'm talking about. So yeah, you can ask, and you can go do all this stuff, but it's like it's that's what I love about Steve. It's like you read this, and you're gonna go, why didn't I think of that? Because it's not about it's just again simplicity and normal relationship building and just knowing how to go out into the world to build relationships like he has so he can go and knock on right to get under to have a table put under the statue of David.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, so anyway, thanks Steve for this, and he's got another book coming out. Anyway, just go follow him on Facebook and see what I'm talking about. Let's see here. Biggest takeaway, Lorna, was how patterns and models are important to serve, not sell. My biggest reminder was to be visible. Yeah, Simon Bowen. That's another big one. Holy crap. Yeah, that was like, and what I liked about that is again, it's everything we talk about, which is just serving. Like, don't push the sale, and sales happen automatically when you can actually tell somebody and show them and walk them through their challenge and then show them the solution by visual models. So you'll probably be seeing in the next iteration of Atlas a lot more visuals with models and things like that.
Thank you, Marna. That was appreciated for sharing your experience at Changemaker.
Yeah, like I keep saying, Emma, we got to start putting up
We
the
got to put up
Amazon the Amazon
Joe.
affiliate links.
Get a penny off of. I could be rich by now with all the books I bought from because you told me to.
Yeah.
I don't
Oh
even
my.
have my own.
What's that?
By the way, I just bought the book. By the way,
Oh, blue fishing?
I just bought it. Yeah.
Yeah, you'll dig it, man. You'll dig it. Very, very cool. Yeah.
Excellent. Again, Joey, for anybody watching live, hashtag replay, and joining us in the Strategic Marketing Club Lab, Heart Center Marketing, the link on there. Come join us, not to be sold anything, not to be throttle marketed, but to truly show you how to get your life back, how to live a dream life, how to have dream clients. And unfortunately, people really don't understand what that means. And I'm finding that out more and more because I asked one person about their dream life, and they're like, blah, blah, blah. And then I'm going to schedule in the workday. I said, stop. What do you mean schedule in the workday? I don't want you scheduling in work. I want you to figure out when you want to play and have fun and what day of the week is it that you want to show up and go live and do a cohort and help people. Not I got to work, because that's to me is I have to go to work. I don't want to have to do anything. Like today was like amazing. I just played around until it was time for my call with my dream client, and then it was play around until my call with Joey. And then tomorrow I figure out what the next piece is to simplify it. And
Yeah. And you brought
brilliant
up
stuff.
I'm going to bring up this other slide because you just mentioned it, and I think it's important to just to finish this one off. That we talked about again today. And this is a model that I talk a lot about, which is the dream life model. And this is what I figured out over, not only because my mission is to stop people from sacrificing their life for their business. That's what this wraps around. But also watching people try to build businesses over the last decade online. So the way that this works is this is all about you, the dream life model. So if you want a dream life, whatever that means to you, it's not going to happen unless you know who you are, all the stuff. Like, what is it that you love? And this wraps around you. And I know that sometimes we listen to this, or we want to be servants of everyone else. And I get that, but we can't serve anybody else unless we are served ourselves. So just keep that in mind as we walk through this model. And then the next one is the dream client. So the dream client wraps around you. It's a part of you. It's a person who is attached to you, to your life. It's not a person who just pays you. It's part of your life. They're a friend. They come over for dinner, this kind of thing. And I'm not saying literally, but you would have them over for dinner, and but they have to be part of your life. And then the dream business is what Scott was just talking about is, all right, I have this person, whether it's one or 100 of these people that are in my life. And what is the business? How does the business now fit into my life? What do I want to do? Do I want to work 10 hours a week? Is it whatever, 4 days a week? What do I want to serve my dream clients? What does that look like? And again, it all has to be in alignment with you. Then it's the dream program. The dream program is absolutely last. I don't care if it's a service, a product, a membership, doesn't matter. This is last. And the dream program emerges from the conversations you have with your client, with your dream clients, which I'll talk about in a second, because this is what the problem is, that we're going from you all the way out. But most people start at the dream program, which leads to all the frustration and overwhelm. They're like, what am I going to sell? What's the program? And then they try to build a dream business, or they just forget the dream. They just try to build a business. Here's a program, and here's what the business looked like. And then they like, okay, well, where do I find clients? Where do I get all these people? And then if they get that working, which usually doesn't work, then they like, oh geez, I gotta I gotta get some time where I gotta go see my husband or my kids and blah blah blah. And they try to fit their life into their business, which is totally backwards. So this is what the dream life model is. And I want to talk a little bit about the program because I get questions about that all the time, about the emergent of what it is. And it's because the people that you first chosen, like best friends, imagine going out into the world and saying, I want to pick a new best friend. And then that you pick that best friend and the two of you go out and find another person to join your tribe or your whatever, your clique. So you can go and watch movies together and whatever. What those conversations, the more you're having those conversations, the more you find patterns that emerge from the conversations that you say, wait a minute, I know a lot about this, and I'm going to create a program from that. Any thoughts on that or final closing
I,
statements?
no, no, Joey, you summed it up beautifully with that is the important piece here. And I alluded to it and talked about it earlier, where people have built their program and now they want to sell it instead of doing all the things first. And then the program will come once you do all that. And I know it's a difficult thing because there's a lot of people out there who's like, but I spent all this time and effort and I've got this great program that I want to sell to people because I know it will help them. How do you know? I just know.
Yeah, I just
Well,
know. I just I just know. Okay. Yeah.
I check with my family and friends,
Yeah.
and they're all behind it. I'm like,
Oh my God,
okay,
Scott. Like, yeah, you're hitting a nerve because I mean, I don't know how many times I've done that and
no,
how many, oh my gosh. Even do you
yeah,
remember, this will date me, but you know Don Lepre? Do you remember Don Lepre?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. The oh, tiny for those of who don't know, that tiny classified ads. Just put a tiny
yeah,
classified ad in and you make $1 billion, right? So then I became an affiliate or whatever you want to call it back then. And they send you the whole package where you pay to have the commercial on television. And I'm like, this is it. I'm going to be a billionaire. I'm telling
yeah.
telling I remember I was still like it was yesterday. We're eating pasta and I'm like, guys, this is it. And
This
oh,
is it.
this is it. And then
Go be
only
rich.
I think one of my sister's boyfriend at the time said, like, what are you doing? I'm like, dude, you don't understand, man. Like, I don't have to do anything. They've already given me everything. And
Yeah,
I just got to put it on television and run the thing, and I get paid because they're selling these things. Oh my God.
yeah.
Anyway,
Amazing.
another great episode, my friend. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching us. Thank you for putting up with all of our silly stories and but good antidotes as well to those stories.
Excellent.
Hopefully you're loving us and liking what we're doing here. If you are, give us a little bit of love, likes, pump ups, whatever they call them on the internet's thing. And if you're here on the replay, let us know by hitting hashtag replay, or as we're finishing off, hashtag live, just so we know where we are getting our viewers from. And we will see you next Tuesday. Scott, do you want to say anything as we exit?
Keep it simple.
Okay, keep it simple.
Good.
Perfect way to end this. We'll see you next Tuesday.